Hi, everybody. I want to tell a story. Um, Approximately a year ago, I took a young adult into my home that was practically homeless. What I wanted to do was keep him out of the prison system. We went to the judge, paid his bail, got him out, and we brought him into our home. One of the requirements was that he seek anger management classes, which he did. He also needed to get tested for mental diagnosis, if any, um, and then seek counseling and get on medication. As I went on a journey to nurture and love this young man, got him some medical insurance so that he could seek counseling and so that he could seek testing. I worked hard, I worked diligently. But as a young adult, he had the last say so. And he did start counseling. I talked to the counselor. I explained to her his background. I explained to her the signs and symptoms that we witnessed here. But that particular counselor treated me so terribly, so cold, was not inviting. After I plead my story, she then said, "Are you done? Then you can leave so that I can talk to the young man." I felt helpless. But I went on and I talked to the young man. I tried and I tried. Then, after I got exhausted, I washed my hands because I was getting stressful. I then, in turn, gave him to my husband to try. My husband went 2 weeks ago to the counselor. Well, now 3 weeks ago. He went and talked to the counselor. Same thing I did. And the counselor then says, "Well, I'll seek a psychiatrist for him." But then she didn't do the referral. Nothing happened for 2 weeks. So then my husband said to the young man, and this was a Friday, "We will call the psychiatrist department on Monday together." The young man in turn said, "I don't want medication." And my husband went on to say, "You don't have a choice. You've got to get treatment. That's what the judge said." And he says, "I don't want to see any doctors." My husband again says, "You've got to get treatment. That was one of your criteria for being out of jail. You've got to better your life." He says, "Then I'll go live by myself." And I in turn said, "You can't do that." My husband says, no, that is not realistic. You all, before we know it, we were sitting in our bedroom. The young man jumped up. He grabbed my steel cup that I use. It's a 40-ounce cup I use for water every day. He threw it at me. I jumped up so it didn't hit my face. It hit me in the stomach. He in turn grabbed the lamp that was on my desk and went for me with it when my husband grabbed him. He beat my husband in the head with it. They both fell on the bed, fell on the floor. As I screamed for help, as I tried to leave the room, he grabbed me while having my husband pinned down. He grabbed me, yanked me on the floor. You all, I've never experienced anything like this in my life. As I screamed out for help, to call 911, I mustered up enough strength to yank from him. And as I yanked from him, my husband grabbed enough strength to yank him off of him. I ran out of the room, you all, yelling, please call 911. My husband grabbed him, threw him in the bathroom, and ran out of the room with blood dripping from him. The young man in turn grabbed a knife. You all, we keep our knives in our closet. He knew where they were. He grabbed a knife, a big butcher knife, came out of the room running with all force to stab me in the eye as I turned my head. That is why I have a scratch here, you all. Beat me in the eye, you all. That is why my eye looks like this. That is why my face on this side is bruised and swollen. My husband grabbed him. He in turn stabbed my husband 5 times in the head. As blood dripped from his head like a faucet of a slow dripping water. We both grabbed his hand. I grabbed one hand. My husband grabbed the other hand as our caregiver called 911. You all, we had him pinned down. But at that time, I looked at the young man in his eyes. You can see his eyes was fixated. And you can see he was coming down off of his adrenaline. Not blinking, nothing. I held his hand. I held his wrist. And I held the knife. If he would object from me, the knife would have cut my hand. But he stayed still. You all, the police got there. They arrested him, called the paramedics. My husband has staples on 2 areas in his head. And because he kept jerking his head, the knife grabbed and the knife just kind of grazed his head. So he has several gashes in his head. He has a scratch on his eye there where he tried to scratch his eyes. Scratch here, he has scratches on this side of his face. You all, I am petrified. I am so afraid. When I'm home, it's like I'm depressed. I want to cry. I can't focus. whenever someone is headed to my room, they have to say, I'm coming, because then my heart starts racing. I get scared. I jump up out of my sleep in the night, yelling. You all, mental abuse is real. Mental. People with a mental disability. This young man had never gotten diagnosed, but he needed to be. And we saw there was something not right. You all, don't let it slip by you. Don't ignore it. You all, this young man I am speaking of is my stepson, my husband's son. He literally wanted to kill us. You all, had his mother when he was a younger age, got him some help, possibly his life would have been much better. Don't wait. The signs are there. But as mothers, sometimes we tend to not want to pay attention. Sometimes we tend to not want to face reality. You all, please, I am begging. It only gets worse as they get older. And the reason he was in jail, you all, is because he tried to harm his mother twice. He was arrested twice. The second time is when I told my husband, I said, I would hate for him to spend days, months, years in the prison system. He only had a misdemeanor then. Now, you all, he have 2 felonies, one on each one of us. An assault with a deadly weapon. You all, now he's a criminal. Now he's going to do some time. Oh my God, you all, I tried to prevent that so much. For the whole past year, I tried to prevent that. You all, we don't want to see our young children in the prison system. We don't want to see that. But you all, when he was 15, he had an anger outburst with his mother, tore up furniture, TVs, just went through and ramshacked the house at 15. You all, if she would have gotten help then, maybe he wouldn't be in the situation he's in now. Y'all, I'm crying out. Whoever is watching this video, if you know someone with any type of mental disability, diagnosed or not, that is not seeking help, that is not on the proper medication, you all, please, for that person's life and for the lives around that person, you all, it only gets worse. But you all, as I recover, as my husband recover, life goes on, you all. Yes, I'm still going to do my cooking, so I'm not going to cover up. People say, well, why don't you put makeup on so that nobody sees this black eye you have? I said, why? The world needs to know. Why cover up? You all, I go to work, I go to the store, I don't cover up because I have nothing to hide. Oh, you all. So when you see me cooking with all of this, you know my story. It's not a sympathy story. I don't want sympathy. I just want you all to realize mental illness is no joke. You all, it is approximately 4 o'clock on a Saturday evening. 1 week ago, yesterday, this happened. So for today, you all, this is all I've had. And I'm still sipping on this cup of tea. Sometimes I can barely eat. For suffering inside. Sometimes I feel that I failed this young man. But I know deep down inside I did all I can. I did all I could. My husband did all he could. Again, I don't want sympathy. I'm not crying out for sympathy. I want someone to be brave. If you know anybody with mental illness that is not getting the proper help, seek the proper help for that individual. And don't let it be too late. Don't let them go into the prison system. Now he has a restraining order against his biological mother, his biological brother, his dad, and me. You all, he have no family now. I feel for that. No one deserves that. I don't know what else we could have done. I did a cry out to the counselor. My husband did a cry out to the counselor. I am so angry at the counselor. Because she did nothing. We could have died. She did nothing, you all. We cried out. But thank God, God saved us. I thank God for that every day. Thank you for listening.